to shock the world here.
I'm calling for an open tryout. If anyone is watching this, I'm calling for an open tryout. I got a year of eligibility
You
left.
might have some.
Anthony, where is home for you?
Home is Medland.
That's wrong.
All right, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just have to disagree.
While we were in class this morning, I was watching his mixtape, and this guy catches and shoots from anywhere.
Are you ready for some debate? Because Bobcat Breakdown starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a night here in the media suite. The cameras are set, the lights are on, and we are all ready for this semester's last episode of Bobcat Breakdown. I am joined today by a desk full of student media legends. Beat reporter, Quinnipiac Tonight cast member, and former producer Santina Maione. Beat reporter, former QBSN chairwoman Emily Sweeney, and beat reporter, former producer, and former Q30 president Ben Kane. Guys, how are we feeling tonight?
Did I get fired? Why am I a former producer?
Well,
Yeah, and I'm a producer too. Didn't mention that.
well, you know what? I'm just reading the script, guys. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
But yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm ready to get into a phenomenal show. We have some good topics to get into, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, bittersweet moment, but it'll be nice to share the desk with all of you guys for a final time.
And one last analogy, on the fly today.
No.
It's not been written down, we're going on the fly for
I would
this
like
one.
to take this time to apologize to audiences everywhere, but let's dive right into tonight's questions. We all remember the numerous great times Quinnipiac sports gave us across the board this year, but guys, what is your favorite moment? Tino, start us off.
Yeah, so my favorite moment, it's going to go from this year, and obviously the three of us were in Atlantic City for the MAC tournament for men's and women's basketball. They didn't win the game against St. Peter's, but Matt Belonc's game-tying three. Specifically, part of the reason I'm saying this is because I was filming the low angle. I was responsible for that during that game, and I was sitting right on the baseline, right in front of where Belonc hit that three. So just getting to witness it in that moment from that angle was just special to me. And you know, a guy who's been here for 6 years and the impact he's had on this program, seeing him have that moment was incredible. To me, that was my favorite moment of the year by far.
Yeah, that is a great choice. I mean, obviously we were all there, and watching him hit that shot was just incredible to see. None of us really saw that coming. He had a rough game
After
shooting.
he had missed a shot prior to that.
He had missed like 4 shots right
I think
before
it was
that.
1 for 7 or
Something
2
like
for
that,
7
yeah.
from
Yeah.
3. So
You know, I was there too.
I don't think you were, but we'll move on to my favorite moment of the year. I chose an at-home women's basketball moment when Kadijah Tungo got her first collegiate basket.
Yeah.
She's a redshirt first year, and just watching someone who took a redshirt year and has been working so hard to have that culmination of getting her first collegiate basket in this game was just so memorable. And if you saw the bench after this happened, it was quite literally like when men's ice hockey won the national championship. It was that dog pile, that hug, that celebration. That is the way this team, Coach Fabry and everyone else on the team reacted for Tungo. And I think that moment just encapsulated what that program really is right now and how they're just all in on helping each other out and cheering for each other. I just thought that was such a special moment to witness, and I'm sure it was incredibly special for Tungo
They're a
as well.
family, yeah.
I will say, for the 2 of your moments, I was fortunate enough to be on the QBSN call for them.
Yeah.
And for Matt Belonc's, it was probably the best and the highest energy call I've ever had. And it's funny because the same was for Tungo's basket. I don't think I've ever been more
we were
excited.
on that call together,
I
actually.
don't think we've ever been more excited for a single play. But we
Incredible.
couldn't speak for a moment, and we had to take a break going into the second quarter as it was right at the end of the first, and we kind of just looked at each other and we're just like, wow. And
Those are the best moments.
And you could feel the energy building up, but I love the basketball takes. I'm going to take a different direction here. I think it's going to be women's soccer back-to-back in the MAC, and obviously women's soccer are tipped to be one of the best teams in the MAC, but the big thing this year was there was no Rebecca Cook on this roster. I think that's the obvious thing that we have to look out for. Obviously, she was one of the top players in the MAC, getting that transfer to Penn State. But this team that was seemingly almost built around her, quote-unquote, developed and played better than we ever expected them to. And having
Arguably the best they've ever been.
And I do agree. I think that was probably the best Quinnipiac women's soccer team I've ever seen, and probably arguably one of the best teams in their history with so many all-MAC winners. We'll get into a little bit later in the show, but to have that culminating moment of them winning the MAC and being a team in that moment and then getting to Brown, obviously they didn't get the result they wanted, but it was a big stepping stone from their last game against Penn State. I think that was my moment of the year, and you could see the emotion on the field when they did it back-to-back especially.
Yeah, great moments, guys, great moments. But let's move on. Quinnipiac gave us plenty of great games. Guys, what is your favorite game from this year? Emily, kick us off.
So, Santino, you mentioned the basket by Matt Belonc'h. I actually chose that game as my favorite game of the year. Men's basketball versus St. Peter's. in Atlantic City. That was just an incredible game to witness. I mean, both teams were in it. Both teams were close. It was a buzzer beater. What is better than a buzzer beater basketball game in the playoffs? I really don't think very much is. And if you look at that, with 1 minute left, it was tied 60-60. St. Peter's turned over the ball. Blanc missed a jumper. Blanc missed another three. And then there was a missed jumper by St. Peter's. It was back and forth missing. The defense was really stepping up at the end. Then Blanc hit that favorite moment of yours.
And it just
that
said
three.
He was 1 of 6 from 3. That was his
Yes.
only shot that he made from downtown.
Yes, he made that, but then it all got snuffed by Mohamed Sow making that buzzer beater off the rebound.
Yeah.
I mean, that game was just incredible to witness. We were, well, Michael, you weren't there,
I really
but the rest
appreciate
of
you
us
bringing
were
that up.
there. And I think that moment, that whole game was just great. I mean, the last minute of that game was the best part of any game we've seen all year, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I think
That's fair.
the big storyline that you didn't talk about as well, we got a lot of good content coming out of that game for Q30, but
Yes.
also the story of Mohamed So fasting for Ramadan and going through that moment, having a moment like that where he's able to get a buzzer beater, it's truly
Yeah.
something special. I'm going to stick with basketball, and this
Okay.
matchup happened in Atlantic City, but it's not the one you're probably thinking of. It's women's basketball versus Niagara
Oh, that's a
on
good choice.
February 22nd.
Yeah.
The team's on a 3-game losing streak. They're without Maria Keeley, they're without Ella O'Donnell, and they're without
Right.
Jackie Grisdale. They didn't win the game, but there was a momentum shift after that. They were down 50-42 heading into the final 6 minutes of the game. It was Anna Foley with a turnaround jumper to tie it and make it level. But you have 2 all-MAC caliber players. You're seeing that tying bucket right there, but 2 all-MAC caliber players in the Parker sisters that she was able to pretty much lock down, and Aaliyah Strong as well only had 4 points in that starting lineup. So without the players, your star players really on the court with a young squad and being able to go on a losing streak, and they lost to Manhattan the week before in overtime. So to have a result like that, big turning point heading into the MAC tournament for that team, I think.
Most definitely. I'm sticking with basketball here. And Emily, you actually said that you think that ending for the St. Peter's Quinnipiac game was the best you've ever had. I'm going to challenge you here. The road game, Quinnipiac versus Fairfield. I wrote down exactly kind of how the game went down the stretch. I'm going to read it off my iPad. The battle between Caleb Fields and Blanc down the stretch, 2 grad students, phenomenal. It was 55-49. Fields scored 5 straight points to cut it to 1. Jalen Leach gave him the lead with an and 1. 3. Otieno cut it back down to 1. Fields another up. Bryson Goodon gets a putback to put the Stags up by 2, and then Blanc back-to-back buckets, 1 on the baseline, and then 1 to get the game winner to fall, driving down the middle of the lane. That game, to me, being on the road, Quinnipiac walking into their Connecticut rival's house and stealing that game away, that was huge to me, and that was a game that I was there to cover along with the other basketball beat reporters. For me, that was my favorite game of the entire year, without a doubt.
A lot of passion, a lot of great games. Unfortunately, not that much variety, but we'll move on. We'll move on. Plenty of great athletes showed us they're 110% this year. However, plenty of young athletes inspired, rising to the occasion. You guys, who is your rising athlete? Ben, dying to hear what you think.
My heart sank a little bit because you said no variety, and unfortunately.
Are you still on
I have a
basketball?
basketball
Dude,
player.
this is bad, man.
I've gone with Maria Keeley, and I think she's
Okay.
a really interesting player to put in. She obviously didn't play the last few games of the season, but when you look at her stats, she was only 38% from the field. She was 4th in assists on the team with 48. She was only 2 behind the starting point guard after Keeley went down, and Paige Girardi in 10 less games. And I think the big thing that we saw throughout this season is this team is desperate for a primary ball handler. And Keeley showed in spurts that she can do it. They had Paige Girardi slide into that spot. They had Ava Seleni. They had Carson Martin. But with Seleni and Martin, I think those 2 specifically, they've kind of proven that they're not the best on the ball. They need to be off-the-ball players who can move and create space for themselves and have a playmaker like Keeley on the floor to pass them the ball. And I think when you slot her back in, when she is back on the court next season, she'll take on that primary ball handler role, and I really think she'll thrive. And I think she'll get her shooting percentage up a little bit as well.
Michael, I know you said we had no variety.
Oh,
I went
God.
with a men's basketball player. I went with Amari Tice. And the reason I went with Tice is because, we had the departure of Matt Blanc leaving from the men's basketball team. There are returners coming back, Savion Lewis, Paulo Tieno. But Amari Tice, I'm telling you right now, he is going to win MAC Player of the Year next year. He averaged in his first season with Quinnipiac about 13 points per game, 7 rebounds, almost 2 steals a game, and a block per game. He is the best wing defender by far that they have on the team. And the reason I think he's going to win MAC Player of the Year, if you look at a lot of notable players that either left through the transfer portal, Jalen Leach from Fairfield, gone. Dakota LaFew, he's out. Frank Mitchell from Canisius, he's gone. Corey Washington from St. Peter's is still in the portal currently. All of these guys were battling for MAC Player of the Year this past season when Blanc ultimately won it. I think Tice, without those guys competing with him, he's going to win it, no question. An athletic, versatile wing that can do everything you need him to do on the floor. To me, Amari Tice, without a question, he's the next rising star coming up in Quinnipiac Athletics.
I will say really quick, if you make him the primary option on a team like you said, I think that even boosts his stock more. And with the guys coming back and having Savion Lewis now, that's going to be his primary point of emphasis when he's making a pass.
Is finding Tice.
Is finding Tice. Obviously,
100%.
Otieno off the pick and roll, but when you find Tice, I think his numbers are going to skyrocket. Like
I agree with you. Yeah.
All right,
All right,
guys.
please
I
tell
have
me
some,
you don't have a basketball person.
So I do have a basketball player.
Is this the
I
Quinnipiac Basketball
promise-
Power Hour?
I
What's happening
promise
here?
the
Okay.
rest of the show that I don't think we have as much basketball. I think when you're looking at rising athletes, though, there was just so much first-year potential in the basketball teams just because of the transfer portal, but also just because of bringing in these first years because a lot of people left. So there's more room for these people to grow. I think that's where we all kind of sat with basketball. I chose Anna Foley. I think
pick.
Anna Foley was incredible this year, averaging 13 points a game, having 200 rebounds. Her free throw percentage was 81.1%.
And for a center, that's
She's a center, and
phenomenal.
she's had to do a lot for this team. But think about next year when they have another big and Ella O'Donnell back consistently. They also brought in another center as well in first year. But I think that it's just really interesting to look at her. Imagine if she has more options. She did a lot of forcing through the middle this year, having to take a lot of fadeaway jumpers that she probably wouldn't be taking if she didn't have to put her team coming back from deficits or just put her team in a spot to win. Yeah. I think when you bring Ella O'Donnell back, she's going to be someone who's going to grow and just get more and more impactful, and she so desperately needs that help. Once she has it, she's going to be so consistent, and I just think she's going to grow so much, and I think she's a potential MAC Player of the Year in the future as well.
Yeah. All right, well, we will be right back after a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere because we're taking a journey through our favorite beat reporting moments, then talking about our favorite teams. Don't go anywhere.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/therightseat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
Reporting from the South Quad.
Reporting from outside the ledges.
From the Arnold Bernard Library.
Reporting from North Haven parking lot.
Reporting in Hamden.
Reporting from Hamden.
Reporting in Meriden.
Reporting from Grassy Hill Farm.
Reporting from outside Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida.
And we are back. Earlier today, Santino, Ben, Emily, and myself all took a journey across Quinnipiac to discuss our favorite beat reporter moments, including our favorite stories and memories. Take a look.
Now, we are not at a field or a stadium, but we are outside of
The Ledges dorm here at Quinnipiac. This is actually the first place that I beat reported. When we came into school, it was COVID, and you couldn't go to games very often, and there weren't press conferences in person. So I actually beat reported an entire season of field hockey from this Ledges dorm, and I think it really shows how important it is for organizations like Q30, QBSN to keep going during the pandemic. QBSN was doing broadcasts from these dorms as well. From dorm rooms, people were on Zoom doing broadcasts. They were on Zoom doing press conferences, writing articles for both Q30 and QBSN. I think it just shows how these organizations were able to persevere through a pandemic and still get the experiences needed for their students. And it was so impactful for me because it was the first time I ever beat reported and got a taste of what it could be like.
Okay, guys, so during our time here, the soccer program has won 3 combined MAC titles. What do you think the future holds for this program?
You know, I've seen both teams play, and I think over my 4 years especially, I think they're going to be just fine. You look at the men's soccer team specifically, I'll let Tino get into the women's team, but watching them play over the spring seasons, when you don't have those veteran leaders in the group and you have a pretty raw squad, the men's soccer team looks really good this spring. I think there's a lot of good incoming transfers, as well as a lot of young players stepping up into bigger roles. That midfield looks solidified. That backline looks really good. It's going to be about goals coming in for men's soccer. I think they're going to be able to find it when they hit the fall.
Yeah, I think the women's team is going to be just fine. If you look at the culture Dave Clark's built with this team, they've been dominant over the last 2 years. They've controlled the MAC during the regular season. They've won back-to-back MAC titles, back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. Despite losing some players this year, I don't see the women's soccer team going anywhere. I think they're going to be just fine and continue to be dominant in this MAC conference.
Yeah, both programs have really solidified great coaches on both sides. I don't see it being a problem for them. But guys, you two have some pretty good content that came out of this soccer field we're just about to get to, so I think we're going to take a look at some of those, right?
I think we should head in right now.
Soccer, what a beautiful game.
Now, there's a lot of athletes on campus that don't really get a lot of recognition on the field for their achievements, and one of my goals as beat reporter was to talk about their stories. I think the most impactful one I was able to tell was the story of Malia de Rosario. She had 4 years on the women's soccer team, multiple injuries, and finally got her shining moment on senior day, getting to come on the field. She's from Canada, so her family flew out to come watch her play. I got to talk to them, the coaching staff, her friends of over 4 years, the teammates that she grew up with. It was a truly impactful story, and it really told me that there's a lot of stories that don't just happen on the field, it will happen on those sidelines, and especially right behind me when athletes enter the fields.
During my 2 years covering the Quinnipiac women's soccer team, they displayed utter dominance, winning not only their first ever MAC championship, but back-to-back MAC titles. And prior to their success in these last 2 seasons, the team had come very close, losing twice to the Monmouth Hawks in the MAC tournament in the 2 seasons prior. Now, why it was important to cover the success they've had, to show how far they've come, to show the legacy that head coach Dave Clark and the precedent he set for this team, and the legacy the players have set going forward as now the best team and the team to beat in the MAC conference going forward.
While beat reporting volleyball, I saw a fan in the stands one day with a crazy hat saying a bunch of chants, and I decided I needed to figure out what that story was. I interviewed him, I interviewed the players and coaches about him, and I think that story was just so impactful because it was something that wasn't about the game, and at the time, so many people were beat reporting, and it was just the game or athlete features. This featured somebody that was at the game, but as a fan. It just created a whole new aspect that a lot of people are now utilizing in beat reporting, which is why I feel it was so impactful.
All right, guys, so we already discussed Quinnipiac soccer, but let's talk more about Quinnipiac basketball. What do you guys think the future of Quinnipiac basketball is going to look like?
They're looking bright for the women's side. They are going to win the MAC next year, I think, at least. I think it's a shoo-in. They have a ton of first-year talent coming back. Ava Slenny, Anna Foley, a lot of other first years, and they're getting a lot of their injured players back in the rotation consistently in Ella O'Donnell and Jackie Grisdale, their captain. I think they're set for a MAC championship.
The men's team, they have Amari Tice coming back. I think he's winning MAC Player of the Year next year. Paulo Tieno, Savion Lewis, 2 returning captains. I think Tice will be one of those captains as well. Men's basketball with Tom Pecora as the head coach, the future is very bright for them. Tom Pecora, I think one of the best coaches they've had in their program's history. Despite only being here for 1 year, they're going to do big things next season. Basketball was the sport that started my passion for wanting to work in sports journalism, and getting to cover the men's basketball team here at Quinnipiac was a gift. The story that I found most compelling and the one that I most enjoyed telling was Matt Belonc's final MAC basketball game in a Quinnipiac jersey. a player that's been here for 6 years, that has meant so much to this program, that has had such a positive impact on all of his teammates, and somebody that will go down in the record books as one of the greatest players in Quinnipiac men's basketball history. Getting to tell the story of his final game, I thought, to me, was the most impactful story and one of the most important stories I've told in my entire time beat reporting here at Quinnipiac.
One of the most important and impactful stories that I got to tell over my 4 years, and one of my absolute favorites, was when I did it right here for the women's basketball team, and I shared the stories of why players kneel for the national anthem. This was something I had wanted to do the previous year. I didn't get to do it, and then this year, everything kind of fell into voices heard, and it was something that came out so well, and just to hear their stories was so impactful to me and to a lot of people who received it on social media, and I think it was one of the best pieces I created over my 4 years and one of the most impactful.
Now, for over 700 days, Lender Court was home to just the Quinnipiac men's and women's basketball teams. However, our second year, the acrobatics and tumbling team returned home. Now, why is this such an impactful story? Well, Quinnipiac plays home to one of the founders of acrobatics and tumbling, their head coach, Mary Ann Powers, but it's a sport that didn't get much recognition beforehand, and it's probably one of the most technical and the most skilled sports I have ever been a part of. So to be a small part of that story and be a small part of that sport is something I'm truly proud of. Now, every game at Quinnipiac has their own traditions, and for hockey, it's the Teletubbies. Now, the Teletubbies don't often show up to a women's ice hockey game, but in a game in my sophomore year, they showed up, they showed out, and they were loud. It was a really cool story that I got to tell alongside my good friend Connor for, where we actually mic'd up a Teletubby and got to share the story of them coming to women's games and cheering on a team that doesn't have too many fans in the stands. And a lot of players, too, were very excited to see them boosting their energy during these.
Weird. Cold out and I was getting a little chilly, so I left my camera, which was a very bad thing to do, and I went over to get a jacket at my friend Aiden Barrett's place. We come back about half an hour later for some reason, and when we got back, we realized we missed a full field goal. There was no recordings of that goal. We had to take it off of something else, and it was just lost. But what about you guys? What experiences do you have at this field?
You know, I covered a little bit of lacrosse. I actually got to come back this year and cover the team, and it was a really good experience. I got to shoot on this touchline for almost every single game, shooting some high quality video, and I think that's what I found most enjoyable, making edits of lacrosse. I had a good time with that.
Yeah.
I think when we did it, all three of us together, it was, I think, my first time beat reporting in person, because it was after COVID, like right after, and I just remember doing rebound after rebound, but not on the field, in the box, because it was snowing or raining. So we have like 6 rebounds inside of the press box because of how cold and rainy it was, and we couldn't keep the equipment out there. So I just remember those cold days, and I'm glad they're over.
We've been through it. We've been through it.
Well, what do you think? What do you guys think Tino's favorite lacrosse memory is?
I don't know.
Beats me.
Where do you think he is?
I don't really have any lacrosse memories, but we'll see you guys after our second commercial break of the night.
I think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking.
Nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Miss the action? We've got you. Every team, and of course, all the action.
No doubt about it.
In isolation, it goes backhand top shelf. Scoop layup with 3 seconds remaining. He hits the game winner.
Knock, knock, who's there? Nobody. Vinny Duplessis sends it right back.
This is Sports Pause, Monday nights at 9:30, only on Q30 Television.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life, but how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have prediabetes, a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, but more than 80% don't know they have it. The good news is, prediabetes can be reversed, and for many people, healthy changes in their daily routine can make a big difference. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back. We've talked a lot about our favorite moments, players, and games, but let's get into what this show is all about, some proper debate. Tino, start us off. What is the best team at Quinnipiac that you have seen throughout our 4 years here?
Ready? No basketball, Mick. It's not a basketball team.
I'm happy.
Best team in our 4 years. I'm taking the Quinnipiac women's soccer team. I think that the dominance they showed over the last 2 years specifically, a 46-14-4 overall record during our 4 years, 29-5-2 in conference. They've only lost 5 games through 4 years in the MAC conference. That to me is really impressive. Back-to-back MAC championships, back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. No wins, but they've been to the NCAA tournament. And I think this year specifically, Ben, we talked about it, kind of alluded to it earlier about how good this team was. Defensively, they allowed only 18 goals in 18 games this year. That's 1 goal a game. So between the goalkeeping from Sofia Lo Spinoso and the overall defense that we saw from Olivia Scott, Victoria Foster, Kayla Mangachos, Madison Mandler, this team just has exuded dominance throughout their entire time, at least in my opinion, because even in the years they didn't win, they were making it far into the tournament. They lost to Monmouth in the championship, lost to Monmouth in the semifinals. They were still making deep runs.
MAC champions in
there.
the golf team. They won
Interesting. Okay.
3 of the year in the 4 years that we were here in Leanne Peralta and Fuji Zhang. 1 rookie of the year in Samantha Galantini. Their head coach, 2-time MAC coach of the year. Oh, and in those 4 years, also he was NEC coach of the year before the 4 years, but that doesn't really count because it's about our 4 years.
4 years.
But still, 2 out of 4 of those years, he was coach of the year. They've had players of the year, rookies of the year in all of those years. 3-time MAC champions. And this year though, they had 2nd place. So where you're saying women's soccer is also dominant, this is also dominant as well, but 3-time MAC champions, better than 2.
Okay. Oh, get smoked, dude. Like that's crazy. Anyway, Ben.
Wrong, right. We might get my pen dropped. That's fine. We might get a little bit off the rails here. Okay. Here we go. The last one of the year.
Oh God.
This truck symbolizes many things.
Nobody can see it.
Oh, we gotta move it to the center.
Okay.
I'll hold it for you.
Thank you. This truck symbolizes many things. It's an analogy, right? An analogy within an analogy. This is what I'm picking, right? Everyone's like, oh, Ben's gonna pick it. Ben's gonna pick it. Here's me.
QVC over here.
This is the team that everyone thinks I'm going to pick. Am I going to get in the truck? Am I going to hang out over here on the desk? What's going to happen? Excuse me.
This is too long.
It is too long, but it's fine. In the truck, acrobatics and tumbling.
That's
the
just not
best
correct.
team over our 4.
They haven't won.
How many All-Americans have women's golf had? How many have soccer had?
They're in the MAC. The NCATA is not an NCAA
How many teams
sport,
are in the MAC?
which makes it
How many
completely
teams are in the MAC?
different.
What, 10, 12? How about over 40 teams in the NCATA and All-Americans? 7. Any national championships? Oh, wait. No, yes, 7. And they didn't
But they're
compete until
individual.
2022.
They have not won.
All right, if I was
a
Judge Judy, I'd be hitting my gavel right now. We need some order on this desk right away. Okay, we are moving on. All right. We've talked about the best team, but in this humble entertainment producer's opinion, a team is only as good as its coach. So guys, who is the best coach in our 4 years at Quinnipiac? Emily, the floor is yours.
I'm completely right. Kyle Robinson, the volleyball coach here at Quinnipiac, 2020 to 2021 was the first winning season for volleyball since 2016. And Robinson not only led them to a winning record in 3 of the past 4 years, the 1 year where they didn't have a winning record, they won the MAC championship for the first time in program history. And on top of that, he completely changed the culture of a program that was struggling. They were in a bad place before Robinson came in, and now this team has such a great culture surrounding it. He fixed a broken culture, cultivated a winning environment, winning record, and led their program to their first ever MAC championship. No other coach had to fix that much over 4 years and had that much success along with it.
That's fair.
I just want to shake your hand because you actually did a lot of the work for me, so thank you. My coach of the year is going to be Dave Clark. He talked a lot about the stats, so I don't have to go too much into them. But when you look at Dave Clark and what he's done for this women's soccer program, Tino talked a lot about it in the team itself, but I think the man is an absolute mastermind. And why do we talk about this? There's one moment that really sticks out to me and shows the level of coaching he is. It was 2 years ago. women's soccer versus Fairfield in the MAC semifinals. Your best player on the field is Rebecca Cook. Everyone thinks she's going to be up top. She's going to be running in the back line the whole game. Where did Dave Clark put her? Santino knows the answer.
Yeah, they put her all the way in the back.
They put her at right back.
Right back,
and,
yep.
And you do that, and he talked a little bit about it post-game, but it threw the mind of the coaching staff off. This is a coach that has so much adaptability within these teams. He's already had 2 MAC championships. This year, he really his players also as well stepped it up. MAC Defensive Players of the Year, the Golden Glove winner. He had a bunch of all-MAC players, as well as Courtney Choko, we didn't even mention before. But his team helped him, but he developed those players from where they were at the beginning of their years until now, and a few of them he recruited and transferred in as well.
Every coach does that.
Kind of making my argument for why women's soccer is the best team in the 4 years.
I don't see the difference between the two.
Trisha Fabry, for me, is my best coach in the 4 years. 516 career wins. I think her ability to coach young talent and what she was able to do this season specifically, dealing with all the injuries she dealt with, and the culture she has on and off the court with her players, for me, it's Fabry.
All right, that's a pretty good argument there. Can't really argue with that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's end with a bang here before the waterworks begin. In our 4 years, who do you guys think is the greatest athlete at Quinnipiac? Ben, you're a big nerd that is not good at sports. But let's hear it.
Wow,
let's hear
shots fired. Okay.
Yeah. You live with the guy for 3 years. You think you know what he's going to say, and then that comes out. It's fine. My athlete of the year, Brog Austin.
That's
and I think there's going to be a lot of athletes. I don't think there's going to be too much debate here because there's a lot of guys and females as well that you can throw in here. But 27 goals and 26 assists in 71 games. His last 2 years as well, he didn't go on the field as much as he might have liked, especially in those non-conference games. But the big thing for Brog, he was 4-time All-MAC, 2-time MAC first team. He was an all-rookie team as well his freshman year. But the big thing is you can't defend the guy. And you watch a lot of the teams that they play in the last 2 or 3 years, they send 2 or 3 over to him. And what Eric DaCosta does that is really smart is he says, Brog, go play on the left, go play on the right, go play down the middle, go play up top.
He moves him around.
It's that fluid front four, but you can't have a fluid front four if you don't have Brog Austin in that team who can play anywhere. He can deadly off a free kick. He can hit a long shot. He can dribble past 5 or 6 defenders. He is probably one of the best Quinnipiac men's soccer players this program has ever seen. And over these past 5 years, I think he makes a real strong case for the best athlete.
Can play anywhere and do pretty much anything you need in terms of the offensive side of the ball in soccer.
I would like to see him in goal. He could probably do that.
Yeah, listen, a jack of all trades. Jack of all trades, possibly. But
stranger things have happened.
You talked about goaltending. I have Yaniv Peretz as my best athlete over the 4 years. Now, in his first season with Quinnipiac, only played 2 games. But all right, let's talk about the 2 seasons where he played pretty much every single game during the year. Helped them win a national title, and to me, goaltending is the most important position in hockey. If you have a hot tendy in the net, you can win a lot of games, even if your offense isn't playing as well as it should be. A .935 save percentage with a 56-9-5 record, nearly 1,400 saves during his career, 96 goals allowed in just 74 games. That's 1.34 goals allowed on average. And then here's another stat I came up with: in almost 30% of his games played at QU, nobody scored on him. And that's the amount of shutouts he had. 21 shutouts in his career, but almost 28%, but almost nearly 30% of the games when he played against his opponent, nobody scored on the guy. He was a brick wall in net. Yaniv Peretz, in my opinion, best athlete over our 4 years.
See, I get that, but at the same time, he wasn't here for the full 4 years, and I think that's something that I took into consideration.
I think it just shows how dominant
I don't think he was better in the 2 years he played than athletes were in the 4 years.
It shows how dominant that he was over those 2 years.
I don't think it was better in the 2 years he played than athletes who've been here for 4 years, like my pick in Ariana Diaz for the women's volleyball team. She was a staple athlete of this team for the 4 years. She made this program what it is today alongside head coach Kyle Robinson. She had 915 kills, over 1,000 digs.
Okay.
She played on both the offensive side and the defensive side. She had to play libero for a bit of this year's season, and she's mostly a spiker. MAC tournament MVP last year, led the team to their first conference championship. I just think she has so much power, and she has been someone who changed the culture and the skill of this team. I think she's the best athlete over the 4 years because she's a staple of the program that stayed.
She is. But let's be real, who doesn't love a hot tendy? I'm just putting that out there. But all right, we got to move on. It is time for our last commercial break ever. Crazy, right? When we get back, you get to watch a couple of young adults cry behind a desk. Don't go anywhere.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Jules, spot me on this last one. There it is.
Keep going with it. Leo! They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
It is me, Punxsutawney Phil. Everyone always asks, "Oh, is Phil going to see his shadow?"
What's that? I can't hear you, little girl. You're gonna have to speak up.
Well, if you keep yelling, you're not going to be able to hear anything at all.
Is this a part of the show?
Could we turn the heat up? It's like an ice box in here.
I'm going to need you guys to turn it down a little bit. I'm clearly in the middle of a show here.
A show? I thought this was a eulogy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. The moment has come. It is time for our final roars. Of course, I've been set to go first, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Well, here we are. To be honest, I've been dreading this moment for a long time. I remember my good friend Ethan Logue's final broadcast. It felt so final, so bleak. But standing here now and seeing all of you, I see things differently. This isn't an ending, it's the beginning of an exciting new journey. I will forever cherish my time at Quinnipiac, especially with Q30. This group, my second family, has transformed my life. Before college, I was directionless, plagued by anxiety and pessimistic. High school was a blur of stress and confusion, and the COVID pandemic only added isolation to our struggles. I arrived on campus terrified, hiding behind an oversized Quinnipiac University hat and a mask I thought I'd be wearing forever. But then, out of the blue, I found Q30. Here, among the most incredible people I know, Ben Kane, Mason Glod, Isabella Foley, Audrey Scafati, Luca Dorenzo, Krista Barong, Emily Sweeney, Santuna Maioni, and so many others, I discovered my potential. I picked up a camera, I produced a sports show without knowing anything about sports, and embraced every challenge, be it in late suits or early mornings, sweatshirts, it was just so much. My creativity blossomed, and with it, my aspirations grew. I've worked on real TV and film sets, traveled the world from Utah to Cannes, France, learning the craft of storytelling. I'm not sure where I'm headed next, but I know where it all began, right here in this media suite. At the end of it all, I know I will keep the friendships I made here for the rest of my life. Let me get a little bit more personal. I want to thank my mother for guiding me every step of the way and helping me grow into someone I am proud to be. My father, who encouraged my creativity and whose stories inspired me more than he will ever know. My brothers, Matthew and Brian, for pushing me to be my best self. And my sister, Olivia, my rock, and my best friend. To my family at home, thank you for helping me realize my potential. To my family here at Q30 and beyond, thank you for helping me find my place. I know we will all continue to inspire and achieve great things, and most of all, thrive to be the best people we can be. Thank you all.
It all started in 2012. My favorite athlete, LeBron James and the Miami Heat, defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. The next morning, fifth grade me decided to watch First Take before heading to school. And in that moment, watching on-air personality Stephen A. Smith, I knew that's where I wanted to be. In front of the camera, talking about my one true passion. I was very vocal about my goals throughout my years in high school, and a lot of people saw me as one big joke. I heard constantly, there's no chance you'll ever make it if you've never played a pro sport, or nobody will ever take you seriously in that industry. Thankfully, my passion shined through, and I held strong in my dream. Fast forward to 2021, when former sports director and good friend Ethan Logue convinced me to come watch Bobcat Breakdown. Without him, I would never have become so involved in Q30, which is not just an organization, but also my family. My first time hosting this very show was alongside Ethan and the man to my left, Ben Kane. I fell in love with the show because it was tailored to what I love, debating anything and everything about sports. Beat reporting was a side of Q30 I didn't even know about until my third year at Quinnipiac, and that has given me some amazing memories as well. The trips I've been on with Ben and many others when we covered the women's soccer team's first NCAA tournament appearance, and this year when myself, Ben, and Emily traveled to Atlantic City to cover the MAC tournament for men's and women's basketball. Getting to cover those events was very special, but probably the most meaningful parts of the trips was the time we spent together away from the work. Q30 has opened so many doors for me. Thanks to what I've learned in this organization, I was able to cover the Super Bowl at Radio Row for the last 3 years, which was a dream come true. My last year in Q30 has been the most memorable and important, and the most important one of all. Many people don't know this, but I almost didn't return to Q30 or Quinnipiac at all this year. I struggled a lot with substance abuse, and my future was up in the air last year on whether I would return. Through a lot of ups and downs, I was blessed to return and have one last ride with Q30 television. Being able to come back to Q30 means more than words can describe, and I will cherish the experiences and memories that I made for the rest of my life. While I don't know where my journey will take me next, I know that Q30 will play a big role in my professional career. Thank you to Emily, Ben, and Michael for making my Q30 and college experience better than I ever could have hoped. To everyone I've worked with in this organization, thank you, and so long Q30.
When I first started at Quinnipiac, I immediately knew I wanted to get involved with QBSN and Q30. What I didn't anticipate was how difficult that would really be. We were the COVID class. All meetings were on Zoom, and only a certain number of people were allowed in the media suite at once, and I never quite got on that list. I applied for field hockey beat reporter as a last-ditch effort to get involved with Q30, and somehow I got the position. But I only wrote articles so that the senior on staff could go to the games that year. To be frank, I felt lost and like I didn't belong. So I went all in to QBSN. I emailed Jonathan Banks to help me get involved and was the only female in my class to join. I immediately felt uncomfortable, but I fought through it. I put my head down and worked, and I won Rookie of the Year that year in QBSN. The next year, I got more involved in Q30 and started to feel more comfortable in both organizations. Then came something I never thought would happen. I decided to run for QBSN chairperson. I saw that QBSN needed a change in order to make women feel more comfortable, so that what happened to me, being scared away from an organization that would end up meaning everything, didn't happen to anyone else. Man, was that difficult, though. I went through people yelling about how women shouldn't run QBSN and a lot of backlash for running for the position, but then I won the election and became the first woman to run the network. To me, that was an honor. I had the chance to make the organization better for women, and I truly feel like I accomplished that. I want to thank QBSN for building me into the person I am today and for letting me live out my dream of going to the Super Bowl last year and getting to cover the event. To both organizations, I want to say thank you the most for the people that you brought into my life. I met Ben Kane, who is on desk with me through these orgs, and he has pushed me every day to be the best I can be. And he's helped me a lot, bring myself from a self-conscious person to someone who is confident in my ability and truly knows my worth. I met the other two people on desk with me as well, in Tino and Michael, who have become the people I spend most of my time with, inside and outside of student media, and I honestly couldn't imagine college without them. I also met some of my best friends in Michael Singer, Jackie, Brittany, and Brianna. These 4 people have become like children to me, and I'm so proud of each and everything that they have done. And to get to watch them grow and be a part of it has been incredible these last few years, and helping people is one of my favorite things to do. These friendships and relationships built from an organization are the ones that are going to last my entire life, and that is the best part of this journey. I've gone through so many highs and lows in these organizations, and it has been the most difficult yet most rewarding experience for me, and I can't believe that it is finally time to say goodbye. I can't truly put into words how bittersweet this moment is, as I know it is the end for me, but that I did everything that I wanted to do here and more. I only hope I have helped make these organizations a better place for everyone who comes in next. I want to end with a saying from my former principal that I have taken with me throughout my entire life. Be kind, be respectful, and make a difference. I feel like I did that here. To Q30 and QBSM, and to the people I'm on desk here with today, I couldn't imagine going out any other way. With a heavy heart, I now say goodbye.
Last year, a week after my graduation, I traveled to Vermont to attend my sister's commencement ceremony from the University of Vermont. I sat in this big auditorium and watched her walk across the stage and felt nothing. After the cohort she had spent the last 2 years with held a private ceremony. And I remember sitting there watching all these random people cry, including my sister. I know you're watching this right now, but I said to myself, wow, I just don't get it. Over 2 years, how could these people possibly become so connected that they're crying over the possibility of not seeing each other every day or not being in the same place? As I drove home, I constantly thought about this concept and said, that could never be me. I'll never have those feelings. I sit here at the desk 1 year later and can confidently say that I was wrong. Over these past few years, I found a home in Q30. Now I'm crying. It's great. It's okay. The content I was able to create and the work rate I feel as though I cultivated through this experience were great and all, but it's the people I met along the way through this whole experience that made it worth it. After serving as the president of the station last year, it would have been easy for me to say that I experienced everything and learned everything. I could just walk away, but I just don't get it. Why walk away from one of the greatest experiences I will ever have in my life if I just don't have to? Why walk out on your family when there's still memories to be created? This is a place where I have made some of my closest friends, a place where I've made a family, and a place where I found the person I love. As I sit here and I say my final roars until the director inevitably fades to black, I'll leave you with this. Over the past few years, I've called this place Pretend Land. I often mock the people who came before me that I still get to experience this world and they're stuck in the real world. But now it's all starting to sink in and that it's finally my time to leave. I don't feel scared or nervous. I feel prepared. Q30 gave me that. Q30 gave me everything I have in my life. I'm forever indebted to this organization and these people. You turned a scrawny 120-pound kid into the man you see today. You provided a place for thousands of people to learn and make mistakes on the road to becoming a full-fledged member of the working force. You taught me that everything happens for a reason and to trust the crazy process of this world. You showed me how to be patient and listen in my most difficult times. And most importantly, you showed me how to be positive and laugh in the darkest moments at Quinnipiac. Q30, I love you with all my heart and thank you for everything.